Are you ready to take charge of your well-being and really live well? Then welcome to Optimal Living KW. I'm Kelly Wagner, and Optimal Living is all about showing you how to stop just surviving in life and start thriving. How? By taking an integrated approach to well-being. At Optimal Living, we understand that there are lots of different factors that contribute to your feeling of well-being and your level of personal satisfaction with your life. And we explore how those different factors are connected with one another. You'll learn steps that you can take today as you start on your journey toward a more holistic understanding of your health and your happiness. The focus of today's show is on emotional health. Now, our emotions are probably some of the strongest tools that we have to help us navigate those oceans of life. But those powerful tools work best when we have a healthy relationship with our emotions and a connection to them. And that's not always as clear or as easy as it might sound. For lots of reasons, you might find that you're quite disconnected from your emotions, either ignoring them completely or overreacting to them, allowing them to define rather than to guide your life. At Optimal Living, we'll look at ways that you can interpret and react to your emotions in healthy ways so that you can respond better to the people and to the circumstances in your life. Our emotion experts today include holistic health counselor Tracy Rowan and author and speaker Deb DeYoung. But first, we often think about talking about our feelings when we're having certain emotional struggles. And certainly talking with a trusted friend or a therapist can be helpful. But an interesting approach to help us connect with our emotions that you might not heard of is called integrative body psychotherapy. And here to tell us more is Roberta McKay.
Hi, Kelly.
Hi, thanks for being with us.
You're welcome.
Good. So you practice integrative body psychotherapy, or IBP, we might refer to it. Yeah. IBP, that's faster to say.
That's right.
So can you tell us a little bit about what IBP is and what's the philosophy behind it?
Okay. IBP it's a holistic approach. So it works on integrating the body, the self, the soul, and the emotions. The goal in IBP is to help people to develop a greater sense of self and a greater experience of well-being. This core sense of self is an experience that's grounded in the body. It's an energetic experience of aliveness, and it's what we come into the world with. So the philosophy is, and what we have come to learn, that it's in our bodies that we hold blocks and interruptions by holding states that are in the body, and these are states that we tend to carry with us throughout our lives that cause us the psychological suffering that interferes with that core sense of well-being. Okay,
that makes sense, because when you think about a baby is quite free with his or her emotions, whether those are positive or negative emotions. You know, a laugh just comes out uninhibited, and if you're upset, you know, the baby is going to let us know. But as we get older, for different reasons, sometimes those reactions to our emotions get stuffed or cramped a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. That's right. And so what we're really working with is helping people to understand those interruptions that do develop very early in life, back in the nursery. That's where we learn those defensive patterns that end up becoming repetitive patterns that we use through life.
Okay.
So by working with helping people to get grounded and present and more connected in their bodies, we help them to loosen or soften those blocks that end up causing them suffering.
Beautiful. Because I think a lot of us as children, we develop these mechanisms for coping with our experiences in life that serve us then, but maybe we go through our adult lives not really recognizing that we're still reacting and interacting from that perspective, and we maybe don't have to anymore.
Well, I think you got it right.
IBP expert
That's
already.
Right.
Now, IBP is also a tool. A lot of people, when they think of therapy, they think of it as a tool they can use to help solve problems. But what about, you know, from the other end of it, just helping us to optimize our life? You know, if things are going okay, how it can help make things better.
That's right. I mean, it tends to be presenting existing problem that will get somebody to come into therapy, but we look at that as that's just the symptom. The reality is it's the underlying patterns that have been perpetuated through life that cause people upset or struggles, whether it's relationship struggles, stress, anxiety, depression. And so finding some way to work on creating that experience of well-being that goes back really for all of us to those very early fundamental time in your life where that template for what you use to carry through your life has been established.
Sure. Maybe what we could do, Roberta, to help our viewers at home understand what they might expect in an IBP session. What kinds of exercises might you do with someone to help them connect with those feelings? Maybe we could do that boundary one.
Okay.
Okay. So I'm standing inside right now a preformed boundary, but normally you would have the person set their own.
I would have the person set a boundary. A lot of what we do in order to help people connect more with listening to their body and their body experience is to focus in on awareness. So before you make a boundary, what are you noticing in your body? The therapy relationship is important, so we work on spatially, how are you doing with me? Noticing your breathing. So then you make a boundary, and I ask again, when you make the boundary, what are you noticing in your body?
Okay.
What is the difference?
And I would normally sit for this. You would have someone sit for this part of the exercise?
They can sit because we tend to be sitting through the session.
Sure. Okay. So if I set my boundary as that for starters.
Yeah. And then you just check in and notice what are you aware of in your body as you're sitting in your boundary.
Okay.
Is there any difference? Does it feel more comfortable, less comfortable?
I feel very relaxed right now, although it seems sort of, there's nobody around here really, so it's kind of just me and my boundary.
So people are going to have different experiences depending on what those very early boundary injuries were that they experienced back in their family of origin.
Okay.
So for some people, creating that boundary is going to give them a real sense of comfort. They finally feel some sense of safety. They have space of their own. Okay. For somebody else, not having a boundary may be the only way that they learned how to have any contact or get their needs met in a relationship.
Right.
The problem with not having a boundary is that they also learn to lose themselves.
I see. Okay. And then you would bring in a prop.
Yeah. So then what I do, I take a pillow or a Kleenex box, so I'm going to take the pillow and I'll move it into your boundary. Yeah. And this pillow represents your mother. Okay.
Aha.
And again, when mom comes into your boundary, just check in and notice what you're aware of in your body.
Right.
Notice what changes.
That is an interesting exercise because all of a sudden it's not just my space, and so having that person in that boundary that I've set you notice how that changes your emotions and your sense of your space and awareness.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. So again, what people are going to experience, so I don't know what yours is that people they may feel some sense of inundation, that their space has been invaded, and then I take the boundary out of the circle and notice again what you're aware of. Okay. That's where experiences around abandonment tend to come up. And so it's different than talk because it's really giving somebody a body experience of what those very early injuries or relational patterns that got established in that they are repeating throughout their life.
Such an interesting perspective. What a neat way to explore your emotions with that physical aspect as well. Thanks a lot, Roberta.
You're welcome.
You can learn more about Roberta McKay and about integrative body psychotherapy by visiting our website at optimallivingkw.com. Coming up after the break, we're going to explore another method of counseling that by design is intended to look at a holistic perspective to your emotional well-being. We'll be right back. There are so many factors that come into play for our emotional health, starting with our upbringing and ranging all the way to things like diet and exercise, relationship and career satisfaction, and our socioeconomic status. To make sure that everything is considered when you're approaching counseling, you may want to consider holistic health counseling. And here to tell us more about that approach is Tracy Rowan. Thanks for coming today, Tracy.
Thank you for coming.
So tell me about how holistic counseling might differ from other or more traditional methods of counseling. What's the main difference in your approach?
Holistic counseling is based on the model of whole health, which encourages people to look at all aspects of themselves and their lives through the focus of balance. So in practical terms, it might mean balancing all the aspects of your daily life, or from a wider perspective, balancing all the aspects of self, like mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual self.
Okay. So even with your intake questionnaire, I know there are many different questions that ask not just specifically about emotional qualities of your life, but what else is going on in your life, what your diet is like, and what other circumstantial things are happening.
Yes. I encourage people to look at their life from all directions, and I get a lot from the intake questionnaire and the first session, which is usually an hour and a half. So I encourage people to basically dump about their whole life and what's going on, and from that I get a lot of information about mainly what people are struggling with, and that's where we start in the counseling process, at the struggles.
Okay, yeah, which obviously is, that's kind of the prompting factor to get someone into counseling in the first place, is typically because they're struggling with some kind of issue.
Yes.
So once you get a broad picture of someone's life circumstance and what's going on that's prompted that issue, and what other things might be contributing to it, what are some of the approaches that you might take in terms of helping someone holistically deal with those issues?
Yeah, I have a number of approaches, and it very much depends on who the client is and what they're looking for, because people look for a lot of different things. But I think one umbrella that could cover most of my approaches would be humanistic psychology. It's a holistic approach that looks at things like meaning and values and personal responsibility and self-actualization. So encouraging people to think about their life in whole terms and what they want that life to be about.
Yeah, because a lot of times I think people get tunnel vision almost with maybe one particular issue that's bothering them, and may not notice how other factors or other elements in their life are contributing to that issue.
Yes. So I help people see what is missing most of the time. When people first come in, it's I'm showing them not only what is there, maybe in the behavioral or thinking patterns, like what is there causing trouble, but what is missing in their lives, so that is causing things to be out of balance. So if someone's over-focused on something, they're generally under-focused on something else.
Sure, that makes sense. Everything in balance, right? So interesting. What would you say are some of the things or some of the factors that contribute to someone's emotional well-being or their emotional strength? What kinds of things in your life can help you with that resiliency?
I think people truly build emotional strength when they learn to trust themselves and the decisions that they make. If somebody has a lot of ongoing conflict, they can't trust themselves because things aren't going well, really. The evidence is things aren't going well, and when conflict happens, there's always the aftermath of guilt and cleaning up the mess. So when people address conflict, especially ongoing conflict, and introduce a little more balance, they can start to trust themselves more, and then I think people build a value system for their life, which they can depend on, and which kind of guides them through and makes them feel more secure.
Okay, that's interesting, because we all make mistakes in our life and maybe have situations where we look back and wish we had handled it differently, and maybe start to question whether or not we can trust ourselves in our decisions in our life. So teaching people different tools that they can use to maybe reassess or reevaluate how they reacted in that situation.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. I do a lot of teaching about communication, healthy communication, what that is and what it's not, setting proper boundaries with people. Basically, a lot of identifying what are the specifics in someone's pattern that continually leads them to certain conflicts.
Sure. And also looking at the holistic perspective. So in terms of, would you look at things like diet and exercise, or, maybe relationships that are contributing to emotional challenges?
Yes. Yeah. And again, it depends on what the client wants to focus on, because somebody might come and be more interested in really looking to balance out their entire life and be very diligent about that. And somebody might just want the answers to one particular problem, and that's fine. And that's what I would address with them. But whatever that conflict is, it would be figured out in terms of balance, really. Me looking at what it is that's causing the conflict and what is missing in their daily life or in what's important to them that may be causing the conflict.
Is there one common thing that you find is generally missing from the people that come to see you? Is there, I don't know if you could narrow it down or not, but are there similarities or common threads you find? There is a common thread, and I've said this a few times, and with most people that come, in some aspect, they usually have communication problems and problems with setting boundaries, whether it be mental and emotional boundaries for themselves or boundaries in relationships. And this is important, I think, for all people, because this is how we relate in the world, right? We relate with people. Right.
And communication and boundaries is the medium between people.
Sure.
Right.
A very important key to our wellness overall, emotionally, but also socially and in all those different aspects of our life. Yes. That's wonderful. Well, you can find out more about Tracy and about holistic health counseling by visiting our website at optimallivingkw.com. Coming up after the break, we'll be looking at emotional wellness through managing our emotions in a healthy way with author and speaker Deb DeYoung. So stay tuned for more Optimal Living. Our emotional health has a lot to do with simple things like listening to our emotions, understanding what they're telling us, and then acting on them appropriately. Here to share some tools that can help us maximize our well-being is Deb DeYoung, author of the book Dance: 5 Steps to Living Your Best Life. Good to see you, Deb.
Thank you very much. Nice to see you too.
Yeah. Well, Deb, you've done a lot of work in your career in the area of emotional development. So let's talk about 3 tools that people can use to help them just process their emotions. So we'll talk about identifying, interpreting, and then expressing. Those are kind of the framework that we'll use. So first of all, identifying emotions. That seems sort of obvious, but sometimes it's not.
Actually it is. It seems as though it would be really obvious. We should know what we're feeling, but sometimes we don't. And it's really important to just be still. At the end of the day, just kind of sit with whatever emotion you might be experiencing and actually feel it. And sometimes that's uncomfortable, but that's okay because it helps us. And actually, we often feel angry, like we're angry about something, we don't know what it is. But below that anger is actually a secondary emotion or a lot of other feelings. And we're really hurt about something, or we're frustrated about it. So we need to sit with it and be able to name it, like you said.
Identifying it. That's interesting that anger is kind of so underneath anger, there's something else like maybe hurt or frustration. So even just identifying the exact emotion is a key. And then understanding what that emotion is telling us. So then therefore what?
Well, we have to be aware of our body. We have to be aware of our hands clenched. Are we raising our voice? Are our teeth clenched? How's our whole body, like a body scan? What's it telling us? And then we have to be able to kind of go from there to say, okay, is this a person? Is this an event? Is this a thought that's going through? Like we need to identify what's bringing us to that point so that we can be proactive. And if it is a person, maybe having a strategy to deal with that difficult person, or if it's an event, like a place you're always going that kind of gets you upset or nervous, then we can have a strategy in place that will help us deal with the people, places, and events that lead to that high emotion.
Right. And that's why understanding what's behind the emotion is important, because a lot of us, especially with uncomfortable feelings, you tend to you don't like it, so you sort of stuff it away, but then you're not helping yourself prevent other instances of that emotion cropping up. So by looking at it, you can find ways to, like you said, get proactive.
Absolutely. And relationships are really important in our life, whether we're talking about our physical health, emotional, mental, social, looking at it holistically. Our emotions really can be a good predictor of, something's not right here in this relationship. But our relationship with our children and with our colleagues and with our partners is very important. So we want to identify it, and then we want to have a strategy.
Sure. And speaking of children, Deb, they're very good, especially when they're young, at expressing their emotions. So, if they're happy, there's a big happy dance that happens. Or if they're angry, they're screaming and shouting and letting you know. But as you get older, it's important for adults to find maybe more socially appropriate ways to express those emotions. What are some ways that adults can do that?
Well, just like children express themselves basically through their mouth, their hands, and their feet. So they're either yelling or they're throwing something or they're kicking something. But as adults, we can do the same, only we need to do things that aren't going to hurt ourselves, others, or damage property. So we need to be responsible about it. And what that means is talking. Just using our mouth to talk or to sing can be really helpful for adults. The other thing, though, is using our hands. So some people like to bake or kind of knead the dough or play baseball, or else use our feet. So go for a walk or a run can be really helpful as well. But the key, whether we're a child or an adult, really is around our breathing. We need to get oxygen into our system. Take a deep cleansing breath and hold it, because that's where the oxygen changes, and then to breathe it out. Okay. And then just to kind of sit with it. And once we get oxygen into our brain, helps us make good choices. Once we get it to our muscles, it kind of just relaxes us.
Right. And that's probably part of the benefit of exercise too, right? It causes us to breathe. So a great example of how something physical, like breathing, can help us regulate our emotional states too.
Absolutely. And we really need to be aware of that regulation, just being aware that, okay, yes, I am feeling this. That's okay. I'm going to sit with it. What's my strategy? What's my body telling me? What's my body scan? Take some deep breaths. And the most important part about the deep breathing, I'm sure if you've talked to someone about yoga, they're going to explain that it's the holding. It's the inhale, the hold, and then the exhale. That the holding piece gets the carbon dioxide out and the oxygen in.
Okay, so that's really the key. And a lot of people, I know one thing that smokers often talk about is it's so relaxing, but I think part of it is maybe, even just the deep breathing. If you can do that without the cigarette, that's a great way to bring ourselves health and relaxation all at once.
Mm-hmm. No, that's an excellent example. And again, kind of the main point with regard to taking care of our emotional health is, like you said, just being aware and not stuffing it down or denying it, just being, okay, how am I feeling? What's this caused by? What's my body saying? And then really taking a strategy. And for some people, again, it's using their mouth. Other people, it's using their hands or going for a walk, and doing that as consistently and as regularly as possible to lead to healthy emotional development, which leads to healthy relationships.
Sure. Great. Deb, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it.
No problem. Thank you.
You can find out more about Deb and about her book that goes by the title Dance, 5 Steps to Living Your Best Life by visiting our website at optimallivingkw.com. Well, what a great show today with lots of ideas and tools that we can use to improve our emotional health. It's clear that having healthy emotions can help us in all kinds of different areas in our life. And remember, you can achieve emotional balance by taking an integrated approach to your well-being. Because all of the aspects of our wellness are interconnected, you'll find that making healthier choices in just one area will lend itself to healthier choices in other areas of your life that you'll see improve too. Be sure to watch all of the episodes in the Optimal Living series to see how it all fits together. And email me your comments and your questions by visiting the website at optimallivingkw.com, where you'll find more resources to help you take charge of your well-being. I'm Kelly Wagner, and until next time, live well and be well.